HackOut 2020 proudly presents Divinity Roxx.
Hey.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello, Divinity. So happy to have you here at HackOut.
Happy to be here.
So let me do a quick intro for Divinity. Divinity is a Grammy-nominated musician. She combines virtuosic bass playing with an eclectic mashup of hip-hop, rock, and funk that she calls alternative soul. Her career as a bass player skyrocketed after she attended a bass camp with legendary bassist Victor Wooten, where she was invited to join him on tour 3 months after the camp. After touring with Victor for 5 years, she became a bass player and assistant music director for Beyoncé. She has appeared at the Grammys, Saturday Night Live, Good Morning America, and a host of other shows. She is the current bass player in Black Girls Rock Orchestra, which airs on BET, and has played with such artists as Jay-Z, Nona Hendryx, Will.I.Am, Erykah Badu, Patti Labelle, and Ledisi, and Gladys Knight. Obviously, that there's more to your life than just that, and we're going to talk about that. But first, and I totally stole this question, you know I did. Would you mind introducing us introducing yourself to us with your instrument?
Absolutely. Hey, 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 hey. Some people are born to lead and others are born to follow. Some people are born to spit it, others are born to swallow. Some are born to make the rules, others are born to break it. Some people are born to dish it, others are born to take it. I was born to make it better, whatever, however, never will I. Let them take me, let them make me, cause I know it's a lie. I'm a rebel when I'm right to say we want to decide. If you look into my eyes, what you see, the strongest weapon being the boost, spitting the truth. The trouble you, the falling in need of a parachute. All you want is loot, pollute the fruit and execute anybody if they cause a dispute. Well, screw you, we'll take it to the streets, cause we all bear arms. Take it to the police, cause sometimes they spread harm. Deep in communities where the sun ain't warm. In the midst of the storm, we resist when they bomb. I'm a rebel, won't you put it to this metal, baby? It ain't no other who can bring it on this level, baby. I go to war every day with the devil, baby, cause I'm a rebel, baby. Yo, I'm a rebel, baby. Yo, I'm a rebel, won't you put it to this metal, baby? It ain't no other who can bring it on this level, baby. I go to war every day with the devil, baby, cause I'm a rebel, baby. Yo, I'm a rebel, baby. Yo, I'm a Roxx. Roxx. Rebel Roxx. Only rock hip hop. Rebel rock Roxx. Rebel rock Roxx. Rebel rock Roxx. Only rock hip hop. Some people are born to lead, others are born to follow. Some people are born to spit it, others are born to swallow. Some are born to make the rules, others are born to break it. Some people are born to dish it, others are born to take it. I was born to make it better, whatever, however, never will I. Let them make me, let them take me, cause I know it's a lie. I'm a rebel when I'm right to say we want to decide. If you look into my eyes, what you see, the strongest weapon being the fool, spitting the truth. The trouble you, the fall in the need of a parachute. All you want is loot, pollute the fruit and execute anybody if they cause a dispute. We'll screw you, we'll take it to the streets, cause we bear arms. Take it to the police, cause you know if they spread harm. Deep in communities where the sun ain't warm. In the midst of the storm, we resist when they bomb. Rebel, won't you put it to this metal, baby? It ain't no other who can bring it on this level, baby. I go to war every day with the devil, baby, cause I'm a rebel, baby. Yo, I'm a rebel, baby. Yo, I'm a rebel, rebel, rock, Roxx. I only rock, hip hop. It's the D-I, the B-I, the N-I, the T-Y. I only rock, hip hop.
I have to admit, at first when Katie said, you know, we got a bassist for the event, and I was like, a bassist? Don't we need like the rest of the band? And then, and then I looked up on YouTube, and at 5 seconds in, I was like, oh no, I'm wrong. We don't. This is amazing. So
much. I appreciate that.
So for tonight, I'm so happy to have you. We're going to do this really interesting format here, where we're going to go back and forth a little bit, ask you some questions about your life and about your career and pride and family and your identity and activism, and also hear from your music intermixed in there too. So it's going to be a really a great night. So, starting off with your career, so you got involved with music. You were involved with music growing up, and then you eventually went to college at UC Berkeley studying journalism.
Yes.
And then along the way, you took a left turn and became a bassist. How did you get introduced to bass, and what made you fall in love with the instrument?
Well, I recently remembered that my uncle used to play bass in a band when he was younger, and I used to sit on the stairs of my grandparents' basement and listen to his band. He had like a funk band. They would play like Kool and the Gang and all the top 40 hits from back then in the 80s. But when I went to Berkeley, I was hanging out with a guitar player who was actually playing bass at the time. So we're hanging out and I'm freestyling with a bunch of MCs, and because I was a rapper, and we're having parties at my house, because I hooked up with all these musicians. And I say to him one day, man, I'm thinking about going and buying a guitar, and he was like, nah, you should get a bass. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, man, you got a bass player's vibe. You should get a bass. And so over the summer, that's what I did. I went home, I bought a bass guitar, and I brought it back to school. And he promised me that he would show me some things on bass. So he did. And I just took it from there, man. I just fell in love with it.
What about the bass in particular that, like, over guitar, you're like, yeah, this is it?
I didn't pick up the guitar, so maybe I would have fallen in love with that instrument, but I was just enamored with it. I mean, all the music I was listening to at the time, from Outkast, there was like this neo soul revolution happening. Raphael Sadiq, Michelle Ndegeocello, Goody Mob, Organized Noise in Atlanta. There was so much bass driven music, and I had grown up listening to all this music that was driven by bass. The very first concert I remember ever going to was a Rick James concert at Six Flags.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I was a bass player that I realized Rick James was a bass player. Larry Graham, my mother used to bump Larry Graham all the time. Bootsy Collins, James Brown, all this music, the George Clinton, P-Funk, all that stuff was heavily bass influenced.
Okay.
So I guess somehow through osmosis, through my subconscious, I don't know what it was, but when I picked up the bass, I never put it down.
You're like, this is the stuff I've already been jamming to. Now I can make it.
Yeah.
So I'm still learning how to incorporate mentors into my life. And during this weekend, one of the things I like about this event is that we have the people pitch their ideas, and they form teams, and those teams work all weekend. But we also plug them into a bunch of mentors and advisors to help advise them this weekend. And we're hoping those relationships continue well beyond the weekend as well. But so I want to talk to you about mentorship. And I know that you had Victor Wooten, who, by the way, Rolling Stone top 10 bassist of all time, play as a mentor in your life. How did that start, and how has he influenced your career?
I went to Victor Wooten's bass camp. So when you first said introduce yourself by playing, I knew what that was about. That was
I totally stole that.
I didn't play the song I played though for Victor. I went to Victor Wooten's bass camp. I was introduced to Victor through a friend of mine who I could even say was a mentor of mine. His name was Jermaine Rand. He was an incredible guitar player, phenomenal guitar player. And he knew so much about the guitar that I used to bug him all the time and ask him questions about what are modes and all these musical terms that I would come across. I would immediately call Jermaine and ask him, what does that mean? And how can I incorporate that into my playing? So he saw that I was really serious about playing music and that I loved music and wanted to learn more. So he turned me on to this guy, Victor Wooten. He gave me his CD, Victor CD. And I listened to Victor CD and I was like, oh man, I'm never going to be able to play like that. I mean, it was humbling. When you listen to A Show of Hands, it is just phenomenal bass playing. And then Victor came in town. And I mean, there's a long story behind that, but I met him, but he didn't gravitate towards me. We didn't develop a relationship or anything. I ended up meeting a friend of his, Anthony Wellington, who was on tour with Victor. And Anthony mentioned that Victor was going to do a camp. And he also said, hey, give me let's exchange information. He's a teacher. So I I ended up applying to Victor Wooten's base camp online. I get to the camp. The first night of camp, we're asked to introduce ourselves by playing bass. So I play this song that I had written. It was called the D-I, the V-I, the N-I, the T-Y. You want to B-I, baby, you can't see I. D-I, V-I, N-I-T-Y. Or somebody say ow. Right? So I play this song. I had written this rap to it. I don't remember the rap. And nothing really happened. But after the camp, 2 months after the camp, I get a call and Victor asks, that song you played on at the camp, is that what you do? I said, yeah, that's what I do. He said, you got more songs like that? I was like, yeah, I got a lot of songs like that. He was like, would you want to go on tour with me and open up my show playing your songs? And I was like, yeah. But it was so funny because I only had that one song. Didn't have any other songs that I had written on bass. So I had to start writing some songs fast so that I would be prepared for the tour. So it was like this saying yes before you were ready type of thing happening there.
That's great. He decided he's going to mentor you.
Yes, he asked me if I wanted to go on tour with him. I said yes. And it's funny because I always talk about it like he's like like the master. So you're a martial artist and you get to the point where you feel like you need a master, right? So you go into the mountains. You know how the movie goes. You go into the mountains, you climb all those stairs, you go meet the master, and the master has you do things that are so unrelated to martial arts, you don't understand what it is you're doing. It was kind of like that with Vic. I mean, I just lived with him. I lived with him on tour. We traveled together. I listened to him play every night. It was just a very natural relationship. It wasn't like I'm your mentor, you're my student, or I'm your teacher. It was nothing like that. We were just friends, and we developed this relationship as friends over the years. And now I can say Victor is definitely a mentor of mine. I call him when I have big problems, or when I can't figure something out, or even when I'm excited about something that's happening in my life. I want to share it with him, and he calls me and shares all kind of things with me too. So it's just a really beautiful relationship that we've developed over the years. And I think that's what mentorship is. It's a relationship that develops over time. Even some of the young people that I mentor, this takes time to develop the relationship.
First of all, are there other people that you think have acted as mentors to you? And also, what advice would you give to people if they were looking for a mentor? Like, how do I find somebody to help, coach me up?
There are so many people. Torres Mateen was the first guy who I toured with. He was an incredible bass player. And I just kind of bum rushed Torres at a gig and was like, I need to learn from you. He thought it was funny. He invited me to play with his brothers. And once I played with them, he invited me to start playing gigs with them. Jermaine Rand, like I was saying, that he was a mentor. He was just so knowledgeable about music, and he recognized that I had so many questions, and they were really authentic questions. And so he was like, "Let me teach her. Let me show her." I think part of finding your mentor is when you are really seeking wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and you are asking the right questions to people who have that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. They recognize that in you, and they recognize something in you that's familiar, because 9 times out of 10, they were that way before they became who they became. They were the young, eager, curious, staying up all night trying to figure out these things, and they see that in younger people, and so they kind of take it upon themselves to say, "Hey, let me grow you up a little bit." Nona Hendryx is a mentor of mine, and our relationship developed over time, just working together. And once we started working together, we sort of clicked, and now I feel like I can call her for anything. And the same thing with her. She hits me up, like, "Hey, listen to this." You know what I mean? So it's
one thing Robbie mentioned, the co-host here, has mentioned that, like, you show that passion, you show you have passion, and that will turn people on to you.
Yes, because they know you're serious. You're not wasting their time, and they see potential in you. And
Mm.
that's what you really need. You need someone to see potential in you and to and to want to grow you up a little bit. Everybody doesn't have that mentor mentality. Even people
Mm.
who have the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, who you may want to learn from, it might not be in them to be a teacher
Mhm.
of sorts. And so you have to be okay with that too, and
Cool.
learn from them from a distance.
So I don't know, one more question before we get to the next song.
Yeah.
But in a lot of the other interviews you mentioned, encourage people to go out and get out in the world and not just practice in the room. And here at the event, we have, we want people to not just have this idea for a startup, but also like go out and talk to real people and see if like this idea you have for a startup is actually something that the world wants, and to go out there. But can you talk about the importance of like getting out of your room and getting into the world?
You got to get out and play in the world, man. That's how you're gonna cut your teeth and get your chops up. You got to play with other people. There's a completely different type of mechanism happening when I'm sitting in my room by myself playing bass.
Mhm.
I'm not interacting with anybody. All the ideas are coming from me and how I feel. When you start interacting with other people, you start getting information about what moves people, what moves you. You learn a lot about yourself by working with other people. So I always encourage my students or just young musicians, go out, go to the jams, go get on stage. Is that what you want to do? Get on stage and perform. And then take that feedback that you've gotten from there, take it home, go shed some more, and then repeat the cycle. Get back out there again.
Excellent, excellent. So, what's this next song we have for you to play for us?
So funny because I'm sitting here thinking, what should I play? I'm gonna play a song called "Can It Be So Hard." Victor actually he appears on this song.
Oh.
Oh, my computer stopped. Up, up. Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem. We've been doing that this weekend, all weekend long. So
Technology. Wow, that hasn't happened. Okay, let's try that again. The beats, the bass, the rhymes, the beats will free your mind. The future becomes the past, so you can press rewind. I'm out of my mind, out of my mind. I'm from a different space and time. I was born from a whole nother kind. Even if I was declined, I would still continue to shine. Still continue to climb, cause that's the way that we climb. It's the way I was designed, from the hands of the master of time. Then we all go back to the same place that we came from. Rewind. Every time I go back, a little piece of me dies. Help me to live through my heart, not my eyes. Can it be so hard? Can it be so hard? Can it be so hard? Belief is the master of the sea. We believe that we're free, but we're living in the belly of the beast, and the beast tells us what to think. And the beast don't sleep, he ain't weak. Don't look him in the eye, don't look him in the eye, cause the eye of the key. Don't look him in the eye, don't look him in the eye, cause it can make you do anything. Don't look him in the eye is the key to the soul, and the soul is the means to everything that it means, everything that it means. Every time I go back, a little piece of me dies. Help me to live through my heart, not my eyes. Can it be so hard? 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 Every time I go back, a little piece of me dies. Help me to live through my heart, not my eyes. Can it be so hard? 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 Sometimes it can, sometimes it can. Can it be so hard? Can it be so hard? Woo!
Thank you. Technical glitches and all, but thank you for powering through, just like we had to do.
Listen, that's what you gotta do. You gotta do what you gotta do. Oh my goodness.
So I have to ask about the Beyonce experience,
Yes, the Beyonce.
or else I'll be murdered by my peers. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Beyonce experience was what an incredible experience.
Well, what was your favorite part of that experience?
Wow, that's a good question. I think that my favorite part of the Beyonce experience was the growth that I saw in myself through that.
I love this answer.
There were some challenges, there were some rewards, there were some awards, there was a lot of collaboration, there was a lot of creativity, there were a lot of new experiences, traveling the world. But I just felt like I grew into who I really was through the Beyonce experience. Yeah. And I think
Go on.
I think all of us did. Everybody on the tour did.
You eventually became the assistant musical director.
I did.
What was that? How is that job different than how you started out with her?
Well, I started out as a bass player. I was just a bass player. And Kim Burse, who was our musical director, assigned myself and the guitar player to be the assistant musical directors when she was away, because we would go on the tour, we would rehearse for the tour. Kim Burse would be with us during those rehearsals, but when we hit the road, she would go home or go to another job. And so she needed somebody, or a group of us, or two of us, to be in this leadership position while she wasn't there. And she trusted us to be able to step into her shoes. There was a lot more responsibility, being the assistant musical director. Whereas before, it just kind of seemed like I was like, hey, I'm out here having fun. Yeah, I'm on tour.
But yeah, what do you do?
I had to,
as a musical director.
You kind of, there are a lot of different things you do. You make sure that the artist is happy with the show. Once we hit the road, the show kind of changes. The set list may change, and so we help facilitate that. We help communicate that to whoever's running Pro Tools. We communicate with the band. We call rehearsals. We call rehearsal times. We sort of make sure that the band is where they need to be when they need to be there. We are like a liaison, in a sense, between the artist and the band. And so there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And I think when you're thrust into any type of leadership position, it changes how you carry yourself. It makes you a little bit more cognizant of what you're doing and how what you're doing influences or affects those around you.
And is that the growth that you felt?
Man, there are so many things in so many ways. I grew as a woman. I grew as an artist. I grew as a musician. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I grew as a leader. Just so many things. Yeah, it was a really beautiful experience.
So you have this Beyonce experience, and it is a major defining point in your life. But then how do you make sure that you don't get totally defined by this experience and you keep growing beyond that?
That's a really good question. At the end of the day, you get to define yourself for yourself and for the world. And you do that every day. You do a little bit of that every day by what you put out into the world. There are people who will only see me as Beyonce's bass player, former bass
Mm.
player. And there's nothing I can do about that. But I know that that I am in my own right an incredible artist. Um, I am a good songwriter, a good musician. I I'm positive. I'm a mentor. I'm an inspirer. You know, I'm so many different things. I'm a producer. I'm an auntie. I'm just so many things. So I define myself for myself. You know.
Awesome. Awesome. So we're gonna get talk to about family in a little bit and your identity, but first we have Break Down These Walls. What is the song about?
Oh man, Break Down These Walls is a really personal song. So it kind of deals with a little bit with family. Um, I think when I was younger, I would I would have these walls up around myself, thinking that I was protecting myself
Mm.
from the world or
Mm.
from negative energy or negative people. And I realized that I needed to tear these walls down so that I could, in effect, be affected by all the good that was waiting for me.
Mm.
Because I realized I was blocking myself. I was blocking my blessings. I was blocking my opportunities with this false wall.
All right. Well, let's hear it.
I just wanna make it in the world today. It takes everything I've got. I don't got nothing else to give. Remember when I shut everybody out. Constructed the concrete around me, they can't get in and I can't get out. Nobody could touch me to hurt me, but I would lash out. Trap with my fears in the darkness of doubt. I doubt that I knew that I could feel so helpless. I couldn't stop it, I was 7, I was helpless. And we never talk about it, that's reckless. What a mess that I never got dealt with, but I dealt with the blame. Left you the hurt and the shame. I was supposed to protect you, I failed, and nothing in our life was ever the same, ever the same. If I could break all of my bones, take it back to 310, cause that's home. Going through boxes of death, stuff alone. I was so weak, I was acting so strong, acting so hard, why take me this long? Why was I forced to face this in this song? So many heartaches and heartbreaks, my heart takes no prisoner zone. Wanna stay buried alive. Took out the 9, counted to 10. Wanted to end the state I was in, the skin that I'm in, I never fit in. No matter how perfect I speak, always received as a beast when it's dark and I'm walking the street. The trigger I couldn't release. Thought of my nephew and niece and I put down the peace. Caught in the fire, caught in the rain. I needed somebody to stop the pain. Caught in the fire, caught in the rain. I needed somebody to stop the pain. Back up, but don't you back down. Gonna tear the walls down. Gone too far to go back now, I can't go back. The beds are made, I lay me down to sleep. Pray to God my soul to keep. Pray I walk the way that leads inside of heaven's gates. It's time to stop the pain, it's time to start again. Time to get out of the depths of the pain. Time to let go of the shame. Time to be free, be me. Who cares if they ain't on my team when I leave? Blow out the last breath I breathe. I pray as my daddy I see. 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 My daddy I see. My daddy I see. Pray as my daddy I see. Pray as my daddy I see. Pray as my daddy. Caught in the fire, caught in the rain. I needed somebody to stop the pain. Caught in the fire, caught in the rain. I needed somebody to stop the pain and break down these walls. Break down these walls. Break down these walls.
got misty-eyed with that one.
Really
Thank you. What?
That was a really personal one. Writing the record was really personal.
With an LGBT event, like I think we all know about putting up walls to protect yourself, and then later realizing how restrictive those walls can be to your happiness. So, yeah, I feel that. And so in a similar vein here, like your album Impossible starts with this awesome voicemail from your mother, which she seems like just the most supportive person in the world. What is your coming out story?
Wow, it's really interesting because my mom is gay and she identifies as lesbian.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have a really interesting family. My mother and father were married for 20 years, so I grew up with my mom and dad.
Huh.
Yeah, so I didn't really have to come out. I came out to my high school counselor. That was the first person. Though I knew my mom was gay, it was something that we didn't talk about when we were kids. When I was younger. So I actually came out to my high school counselor. I went to see a counselor. My high school counselor, I can't remember her name. She was this Black woman who had long dreadlocks down to her butt, and I thought that it was a safe place for me to come out and tell her that,
Yeah. Do you remember why you decided, hey, I gotta tell you this today?
I was going through a lot. I
Okay.
was really going through a lot. My mom at the time was doing drugs at that time. And so my family was falling apart. I was the oldest. And so I was kind of like the mom in a sense. And I think the pressure of that, and I was always a really good student. And so I had all this responsibility on me at the time. And I was starting to act out, and I was this frustrated artist who was in an international baccalaureate program at an international study school that had just merged with the performing arts school, but I couldn't be in the performing arts program. And
Where
so
was this located?
this was in Atlanta. So it was just there was a lot going on, and I felt like I needed to say that part out loud, that I'm gay. And so I did, to this counselor. And I swear to God, she literally, like, she almost passed out. And I was like, well, probably shouldn't have told her that.
Not feeling as safe as I thought it was going to be 2 seconds ago.
So sitting there like, whoa, silence. Like, you could cut the silence with a knife. And so after this long silence and this just look on her face, she says, maybe you should talk to the other counselor. I look at the other counselor. The other counselor was this motorcycle riding white woman named, I'm not gonna say her name, but she was, and she was mad cool. But I was like, I don't know if I should talk to her about this, But I did, and we ended up becoming such good friends. She was such a great mentor. She guided me through the whole thing. I had all those questions. Why do I have to, why is this the life that I'm going to have to live? And, can I just not be, or, can you help me not be, and she just kind of helped me settle with it. This is who you are. This is just come to grips with this. It's okay. She made it okay. And so throughout the rest of high school, she really helped me. She helped me a lot in so many different ways with everything I was going through, because it was that, but it was also this other thing, this home life that was really tumultuous at the time. But my mom, she recovered like champions do, and she's been clean for like 20 something years now.
Wow.
And she
Wow.
is the biggest cheerleader. I mean,
Wow.
yeah. That was a lot.
That's That's an amazing story, though. That's amazing that you also like, even though the support was there, the support came through. Um, that's super lucky.
Oh, and I needed it. I was, 17, and
Mhm.
I needed that
Mm.
affirming from somebody, and she certainly gave it to me.
So recently, a friend, I've got a small group of people who kind of help each other out, coach each other up, and one of my friends in that group recommended a book called The Ultra Ego Effect. Um, and the idea of that book is that you need to identify your ultra ego, who has the power to do the things that you don't think you can do yourself. And I heard about that, and I think there's some parallels there between that and Divinity Roxx as an identity. So can you talk about the birth of Divinity Roxx?
I mean, it took a while to birth Divinity Roxx. The name Divinity came to me when I was about 12. It became my rap name.
Hmm.
But I didn't really go by the name. It was a heavy name to carry when I was young, and so I wasn't sure if I was worthy of the name
Hmm.
Divinity. And I tried to change my name so many times, but I couldn't. It just kept coming back to Divinity, Divinity, Divinity. Roxx, it's so funny. Where Roxx came from? A culmination of my best friend, me, my rebelliousness, my just rah attitude, the fact that I really got deep and heavy into rock music when I started playing the bass. um, I think Divinity Roxx really was born in the Beyoncé moment.
Hmm.
When I got to that place where I was her bass player, I was like, I'm gonna change my name. I'm Divinity Roxx. And so Divinity Roxx is definitely this superhero.
Hmm.
She's a lot, boy. She can she definitely has catapulted me into the stratosphere with
Hmm.
her fearlessness, her creativity, um, and I think my desire to always learn something kind of fuels her fire to, okay, now that we've learned it, let's go use it.
Hmm. Hmm.
you know? So yeah, Divinity Roxx.
Yeah, it goes back to that growth you mentioned earlier. But you had this like armor sitting there in the corner that you weren't quite ready to put on yet, and you reached that point of growth where you're like, okay, I
This
can wield that now.
this is the time. Yeah, I mean, Beyonce gave me this solo in her show.
Mhm.
I was so scared. She gave me a solo where I go out with my bass by myself on stage in front of thousands and thousands of people and play just me and the bass. Not I couldn't even rap or say a poem or anything like that. It was just play the bass.
Mhm.
And that was one of the scariest times in my life preparing for that. But Divinity Roxx was like, "Yo, we live for that. This is why we're
We got this.
right now. Yo, we about to go out here and kill it."
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So, want to ask you another question before we get to the next song. But it's quarantine. Quarantine time is rough for single people like me.
I do check on my
Um,
single friends. I do check on my single friends. I call
yeah,
them up, yo, I just gotta check on you, see how you doing.
I feel it was musical chairs and music stopped and I didn't have a place to sit. And I'm a sucker for love stories right now. And you have a super cute love story. Would you mind sharing how you and Yanni met and why you include her in some of your music?
Yanni and I met on the Beyonce tour.
Everything stems from the Beyonce.
Dude, life changed after that tour. She was a dancer and I was a bass player, and we started hanging out on the road. And we're still hanging out 13 years later. We just got married last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. 2019. I don't know what we would have done if this whole thing had happened the year we got married, we probably, it would have been crazy.
Mm.
We know a lot of people who had to postpone their weddings and, all of that type of stuff. But yeah, we met on the Beyonce tour. And it's funny because you talk about the Impossible album, and the Impossible album, I believe, was the first album where I actually acknowledged that I love women and that I am, that I'm gay and that I have relationships with women, intimate relationships.
Mhm.
Um, and I had never done that in my music before. I wanted this
Mm.
to be like the most honest album that I had ever written because I initially thought that it was going to be my last album.
Mm.
Yeah.
Why?
I was really artists go up and we go down, and then we're happy and we're like, life is great and we're the most amazing people on the planet. And then other times, like, why am I in existence? Why do I write music? Does anybody care? Am I just screaming these songs out and nobody's listening? Sometimes you feel that way. And so I was feeling that way at the time in 2016. And I was like, you know what? I have one more album in me, and I'm gonna give it my all on this one. So those records are so personal,
Mm.
and I feel like they're some of the best songs I had ever written.
Okay. So we got next song is Miracle in Question. What is this one about?
So Miracle is the song you mentioned about my mom, with my mom
Wow.
on the voice note. When she sent that voice message, I said, I have to save this. I just saved it and saved it on a hard drive somewhere.
Mm.
And when I wrote the music for this song, this song, it took a while to develop this song. It went through a lot of different incarnations. But finally, a good friend of mine in Belgium, Babel, and I let him listen to it, and he started playing the chords, and the vibe of the song changed completely. And I was like, I need that voice note from my mom to start this off. And I just thought that would be the most beautiful way to start the album, because what you feel when you listen to that message is so real and so authentic and such a personal. It was really personal. Nobody else was supposed to hear that. She sent that message to me for me because I needed it at that time, in that moment. And she knew it because she had just seen me, and she could tell that I was not sure about what was happening in my life, what was going to happen in my life. And so she left that message when I left town, and I'll play it right now, as a matter of fact. And then I'll talk about the next song.
Hey, Divinity, it's Mama. I was thought about you all night and just got busy and wanted to call, but started to text, started to hit you on Facebook, but I just didn't. I wasn't trying to bug you, but yeah, I wanted to connect with you before you left, but you be busy, and it's all good because you do your part. That's important. I appreciate that. But I love you, and you're definitely in my prayers, and I just pray that this year, definitely your year, I really believe it, to prosper in your business and your dreams. So hold on, get ready for the ride, and I'll see you soon. And always expect a miracle. Always expect a miracle. Always expect a miracle.
I was conceived on a prom night, so I'm a celebration. Mom and dad was 18, they didn't have Nathan, but love a baby girl and expectation. And she could be anything and she would be amazing. Pops had a dream that I would come, and I dreamt that he would die from the motorcycle ride. It tore me up inside. But I'd rather say goodbye at your bedside than watch you live in hell. Love intensified, dreams intensified. Mom said I'm a miracle. I look in the mirror, but all I see is you staring over my shoulder. I'm just getting older. Then I hear you whisper, baby girl, it ain't over. So I continue to dream, continue to scheme, and Try to figure out just how to make this cream and how to shine my light on my own high beams. I walk the path of right, I never leave. I'ma take the road less traveled by, and I'ma take the slow road to where you are. Cause that's how we do, and I'm expecting a miracle for you too.
Always expect a miracle. Always expect a miracle. A miracle.
Always expect a miracle. My mom sends messages like that all the time. Super inspiring.
My mom does too. Hi, Mom. I love you, by the way. Sorry I haven't called you today.
There's nothing like having that mom that just loves you and supports you.
Mhm.
And even despite the time when she wasn't really there, you know, when we spoke about earlier about her being having this drug problem,
Yeah.
she still continued to be there in a way. And there were times when she wasn't there, and I knew that it was because something else had taken control of her. But as soon as she shook that, she right back at being at the games with a big sign. My mom who would come to the game, she would have made a sign, and she would sit out there with her big sign with me and my sister's name on it, screaming our names. Hit the ball! Yeah!
What game are we talking about?
Well, I used to play softball. I was
Okay.
the shortstop softball team, basketball too. She was just, it was embarrassing, but we love her. We love her.
In the way that's adorable as you look back at it.
Yes, exactly. It was not adorable back then. I'm gonna be the same way though. I'm annoying.
That's my baby.
Awful. Oh, I want to play Question for you. Question
Yes.
my favorite
What is-
songs. I wrote this song for Yanni.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is a song for my wife.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm just gonna play it. If you had a question, I don't have a question. If I love you, cause I do. So there is your answer. If you need an answer, I know you feel it too. I know you do. All I think about is you, me, we, us, 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 us. You, me, we, us, us. Don't ever think that I ain't coming home to you, cause I'm coming home to you, girl. Don't ever think that there is something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you, girl. Don't ever think that I ain't coming home to you. I'm coming home to you, girl. Don't ever think that there is something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you, girl. I love you. We, us, 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 us. You, me, we, us. You know that I be doing shows a bunch of time on the road. I be locked up in studios for hours, no change of clothes, no shower. You hold your nose and nod your head to my pros, and you can feel my excitement. It's the same with my woes. I'm wearing thin with the state that the people who share my skin is in. You just sit back, don't interrupt me, cause you're listening. You heard it all before. I get mad as a lion's roar. That could have been my sister's door. The cops came knocking for, man. You know how crooked them cops is, baby. You know. I know I wasn't even supposed to be talking about that. I'm supposed to be talking about how much I love you and adore you and miss you and stuff, you know, but you know that I'm ADD, my mind it runs free. I try to reel it in, but you just sit patiently when I can never find my keys. You know where they be. You got the key to my heart, and I'm not talking Tiffany's. And even when we're apart, I still feel your energy. I kind of miss when we were touring. Our nights was never boring. We were soaring, drinking sake in Osaka. Probably had too much vodka in London proper. You, me, we, us. question what you see. Oh, I'm coming home to you, girl. Don't ever think that there is something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you, girl. Don't ever think that I ain't coming home to you. I'm coming home to you, girl. Don't ever think that there is something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you, girl. Don't ever question what you see in the mirror. Ooh, allow me to make it a little clearer. Oh, silly girl, are you listening? Oh, baby, can you hear her? Yo, you are everything, 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 everything. And you can't see the spell you put on me. Yo, you and me, we. Oh, you, me, we, us. Don't ever think that I ain't coming home to you. I'm coming home to you, girl. Don't ever think that there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you, girl. Don't ever think that I ain't coming home to you. I'm coming home to you. You, me, we, us, us, us. Oh, you, me, we, us. Hey, hey, hey. Yes, us, yes. Love us.
That's great. And I've seen the music video of that has you and Yanni in it, right?
Yeah.
Talk about recording that video.
Oh, we were in LA at the time. What was she out there doing? She was out there working. Maybe it was pilot season, and she had rented this really funky little apartment, and I was traveling, and so we were just kind of like, hey, let's shoot this video. A good friend of mine was out there. We had a bunch of cool couples in the video. All of the couples represented couples who were in the arts, and so you had one partner who traveled a lot and was always out on the road, coming home, and just wanted your partner to know that no matter what, I'm coming home to you, no matter where I go. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It's a very nice
you.
video to experience what that's like. So
Not that video.
So you have all this, and it's good. You have this big foundation of love from your mother, from Yanni, from your mentors that support you, and you need that now because we're in 2020, and has 2020 been a year?
Yeah, that's a dude.
And I want to talk to you about the Black Lives Matter movement and stuff that's been going on this year, and how that has affected you personally, and how that affects you as an artist on and off the stage.
It's on everybody's radar
Mm-hmm.
right now, but it's always been on my radar. Growing up in Atlanta, I grew up in the birthplace of Dr. King, so being acutely aware of what it's like, and I mean, I am a Black woman in the world, being acutely aware of what that means.
Has race been an issue? Has it come up more in life?
Has always been at the forefront of who I am and how I see myself in the world. I'm happy that a lot of people are starting to pay attention. my grandfather couldn't vote. You know, like think about that. My grandfather. I sit and listen to stories that my grandfather tells. And you know what's really interesting is that my grandfather doesn't really talk much about how tough it was for him
Mm.
back then.
Mm.
You'll get a little bit of it here and there. My grandfather was an electrician. He had gone to school, gone to trade school to be an electrician. He
Still in
realized
Georgia?
no, in South Carolina. My grandparents are from South Carolina. He realized there were no black electricians in South Carolina
Mm.
because one of the barriers to become an electrician was that you had to work as an apprentice under someone else. But all of the electricians were white, and they were certainly not going to allow
Mm.
my grandfather to work up under them. So he
Yeah.
moved to New Jersey and found that it was the exact same thing,
Mm.
the exact same problem. So he worked. My grandfather did all kinds of jobs. He was he was a short order cook. He talks about being working at a dry cleaner. And becoming the highest paid person at the dry cleaner. And when he found that out, that he was the highest paid person, he quit the
Mm.
job. It seems like there's no room for growth. You know, I'm going to tell a short story about him. I'm going to try to make it short. He ended up becoming a janitor at Bell Labs. He found that Bell Labs was looking for electricians, and he was an electrician, so he kept applying for the job, and he kept being told that he wasn't qualified for the job. And he wasn't qualified was because he hadn't had that apprenticeship. So he asked the lab. He said, "Well, if you have a license, can I be an apprentice under the lab?" And whoever he talked to said, "Well, I mean, you do have a point there, but I'm gonna call you back." So they called him back, and they actually called him in for an interview. And in this interview process, was given the task to make something run. He always said, I always in my mind I see it as an engine, but it's some sort of a mechanical device that he needed to make it work. And nobody on the team at the time could make it work. Nobody in the lab could do it. And he was up against all these young kids who had just graduated from MIT and all these, college degrees and all these things. And my grandfather, to make a long story short, got the thing working in like 2 days.
All right.
And he was hired at Bell Labs. He ended up
Mm.
going and creating a patent for the company, which is really amazing
Yeah.
considering all the obstacles he faced and all the yeah, man, he had a really tough life. And so I want to honor him always
Mhm.
in movement. I want to I want to teach young kids that listen, man, there's still a fight to be had. And so we got to get out here and we got to make sure that all of the progress that's been made isn't just wiped away in 4 years or 8 years or 16 years.
Mm.
You know, we've come a long way as African Americans in this country, but there's still a lot of fight and still a long way to go. So I am down for the Black Lives Matter movement. Um, yeah, man, it's heavy. It's heavy with the police and that whole racket. Yeah, it's a lot. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I said I need to just stop listening
Mm.
to. I mean, my heart was hurting. I was listening to the 1619 project, and I was listening to a segment about a group of farmers, this young farmer who was systematically denied loans over and over and over and over again until he lost over 5,000 acres of land. And I almost just stopped and cried
Mm.
because what do you do when you are constantly and systematically denied access? and make you want to holler, man, and make you want to fight. But we got to be smart about how we fight. Thurgood Marshall fought through the courts, but now we are we're living under a president who's changing the courts. We aren't even talking about that. And he's putting people in lifetime positions who, if we did try to go through the legal system now, what's our recourse?
Mm-hmm.
Would that strategy work right now? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, anyway, okay.
Ooh.
I'm sorry.
Well, to bring that back to the positive forces that are out there, though, you mentioned in a other interview that one of your favorite performances was being involved with the Women's March in Nashville.
Yes, I really enjoyed the Women's March. Woo, that energy, man. See, that's what I mean. There are movements. These movements of people, it's going to be the people. It's not going to be the politicians. It's going to be us. It's going to be us out in the streets demanding a better life for ourselves. It's going to be us who have to run for these offices and take the power back. We have to take back the government. It's a government for the people, by the people. We are the people. So we have to do the work. And I think I'm so proud of the young people who are out here doing the work and
Mm-hmm.
organizing and strategizing and building coalitions and building communities that continue to lift the people up, you know. So the Women's March was one of those spaces where there was just a group of people who were on one accord and who were fighting and striving for the same things, and it was just so much positive energy. It was just it was beautiful to have, and there was a bunch of different types of people. It was diverse. It wasn't just one group of people. There were several different types of people coming together under one accord, and that's what we need to see more of. That's what America was built on. That's what America's about, you know. So yeah.
And you use your music as a vehicle for this too. You have a message in a lot of your music.
I do. I believe that music is extremely powerful. Music has the power to penetrate the mind, the soul, the psyche, and give people an opportunity to see the world in a different way. And so I think, you know, it's important for artists to reflect the times and also encourage and sort of lead the way. Lead the people with what you want the world to look like. Show that in your music.
Mm-hmm.
Touch people's hearts. Music is a heart to heart transmission,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's what makes it so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? I mean, you know, haha. Black Lives Matter movement
Oh,
affected
um,
this year?
what was the question?
How has the Black Lives Matter movement?
That's it. You know, I got a friends that I talked to, and I'd say initially I did not want to engage with it. That it was like this has been, you know, it's been difficult being black in America, you
For a
know,
long
my
time.
whole life, you know, and so just because a bunch of people discovered a few weeks ago that there's tragedy out there, and have decided to all of a sudden get engaged doesn't mean that like it's now my responsibility to put down everything I was doing because I've been coping with this my whole life, and I'm glad you just tuned in. But like, I don't know, it was difficult to engage at first, and then I realized that there was a pain that I was feeling by not engaging,
Mm.
by avoiding it. That there, there's a certain level of like there's a certain level of you know just indignity that you get anesthetized to, and you don't want to look at because it's just easier to try and go about your day without thinking about it. And by people drawing attention to that, you're like, oh, now I got to think about that again. And so it was easier to not to. But then once I engaged with it, it's like, you know what? Okay, if we're all here, we're all doing this, then I'm going to do it too. And beginning to talk about it then did help. I find that for myself, I've got a black father and a white mother. And so my identity has been a struggle for a long part of my life, not just with the sexual orientation, but also with race. And a lot of times I'm the only, colored person in the room, and I have to explain things to people like, this is why this doesn't work, or this is why this is offensive, or this is why. And I didn't want to do that. Sometimes I just don't want to be that person explaining stuff out. But when I started doing that, I've discovered that it does. If you get to a constructive conversation where somebody, you are able to enlighten somebody a little bit about some of the oppression, then you feel you made the world just a little bit better that day. And so it does help to engage.
Yeah, I can do that.
Sorry, that was a long answer to a question, but
no, it was honest though, and I get that. Just sitting and talking with groups of my friends who were getting these weird text messages or calls from white people who were like, "Do you feel like this? Do you feel this way?" I had no idea that you were having this experience, that we were living these completely parallel lives. Your life does not look like what I thought it looked like, or I had no idea. So it was, and they felt the same way. They were upset. They didn't want to engage. It was a lot. It was a lot to have to explain to people. But it's, I think that there's going to be a lot of growth that comes out of this for a lot of people. And I think that this pandemic has given everybody an opportunity to grow. If you haven't grown even just a little bit after all this time being home and starting to realize what's really important and what really matters in the world, then you've missed out on a huge opportunity to change life. Yeah.
It gives us an opportunity to say, okay, how am I going to be a constructive force in this? Given all the hardship, like what can I do to actually contribute in a positive way to build the society I want to see?
Yeah, it's to inspire people to be that change. There are some people who probably never marched before, never thought about going out and protesting and engaging with people who are out there protesting. And they see that, wow, there are like-minded people in the world, and these people that I can engage and learn from, learn with, grow with, relationships to be made, communities to foster. So it's been an interesting time. I mean, yeah.
So we got some songs coming up here.
Yes, we do.
Back to oh yeah, there's music.
This song "We Are" was inspired by. It's funny because when I wrote this song, I really just wanted to write something impactful. I have always wanted to be an inspiration in some way, shape, or form through my music, through my life. And when my guitar player Omar and I sat down to write, we sat down with a very clear intention that we wanted to write something that was meaningful and impactful. And I believe we really did that with this song "We Are." So I'll share that with you. What's the color of love? Greens and yellows, hues and blues, the world is yours. This is the feeling we get when we know that we're floating above. My heart is pounding with passion and beat. Can you feel it in yours? Can you feel it in yours? The future's in my hands. If I pour it into love, ain't no telling when I'ma get back. If I won't get it back, you can feel the buzz. Who am I to judge? I only come from love. We are traveling now at the speed of light. Can't you feel the rush? Will love really conquer all? Is it gun really worth the fall? Are we all so afraid of what we don't understand that we're willing to shoot without pause? What if you were that one who could change the course? Would you step into your greatness? Would you? Can you feel the force? We are what we're waiting for. Put your hands in the sky. for the stars. We are what we're waiting for. Put your hands in the sky and reach for the stars. If the sky is the limit, let's fly through the limit. My feet are on the ceiling, so of course I'm feeling lifted. My head is in the clouds, can't feel the ground. I was racing through the past, but the future's here right now. One beat, one heart, one life, one love. One of you plus one of me equals one way before long, before long. My heart is pounded with passion and beat. Can you feel it in yours? Can you feel it in yours? Will love really conquer all? Is a gun really worth the fall? Are we also afraid of what we don't understand and we're willing to shoot without cause? What if you were that one who could change the course? Would you step into your greatness? Would you? Can you feel the force? We are what we're waiting for. Put your hand in the sky and reach for the stars. We are what we're waiting for. Put your hands in the sky and reach for the stars. We are what we're waiting for. Put your hands in the sky and reach for the stars. We are what we're waiting for. Put your hands in the sky. For the stars. We are the ones we've been waiting for. June Jordan was the first person to say that. June Jordan was my professor at UC Berkeley. She was my poetry professor. And it wasn't until after I wrote the song that I realized she was the first person to say, "We are the ones we've been waiting for."
That just stuck in your head for years, or?
No. I think, I mean, a lot of people have said that over the years. I didn't associate it with June at all. It was sort of this incredible coincidence. I think Barack Obama said it a lot. He was the last person that where it stuck in my psyche. We are the ones we've been waiting for. But when we started playing that melody, it was like I kept saying, "We are, we are, we are." It was like, "We are, we are, we are," and I'm like, what's the rest of it? What we're waiting for. That's it. It was like the song was writing itself. It's just one of those things that happens. I heard L.A. Reid say God was in the room when he recorded some of his favorite recordings. And I feel like with We Are, God was in the room when we wrote that.
And a note about that recording, you have a video for that that has a lot of people in it.
Well, yes, that was the recent. So a company that I work with, an incredible microphone company, Austrian Audio, wanted to do a remix of We Are. And they wanted to invite all of their artists. They wanted to do this come together in this moment where everybody is at home by themselves. There was a lot of that. People wanted to feel connected to each other. And they felt like that song was a perfect way to bring a group of people together, a group of artists together. And so we put it together. It was really great. Now when I hear it, I hear that saxophone come in. Yeah, that was cool.
Well, thank you so much for this conversation today, this time with you and sharing so much of your life.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you, Julian. This is an incredible event and an incredible organization you guys have here. So
Yeah, well, much credit to Taylor. Taylor, come up from backstage.
Taylor, don't hide.
He's been operating the entire scene.
This whole performance has just been truly spectacular. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. This has been awesome. Hey,
Desmond.
You're muted.
That was amazing. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's always so weird, doing this now at home because the band, I am an artist that likes to improvise. And so like I'll just start doing something different and the band will say, "Oh, cool, that's where we're going." But when I'm playing to the tracks, I can't do that.
By the way, what is in this room that we're looking at right now? I wanted to ask that, but like you
here?
got some. Yeah, what's behind you?
Just these small things.
These are some of my favorite basses. I played this bass on the Grammys with Beyoncé. The bass behind it is the bass that I actually got the Beyoncé gig with. And the bass behind that is the bass that I played my very first Beyoncé gig with. It's so funny. My wife actually has a lot to do with why this room looks so cool because she has such a great eye. This is a subsequent Moog key bass. There's a lot of things in front of me that you guys can't see. But yeah, I got a little ukulele in the corner. I got a record collection over there. All these pictures on the walls are things that inspire me. Victor Wooten is right here. Boom. James Brown is over there. That drum head is from Questlove.
Wow.
This is a picture of me. My first ad in a bass magazine. More basses. This was a wedding present. This bass right here. Yeah, so this, you see that little thing in the corner. That's a plaque from the Beyoncé tour. Yeah, so this is where I feel the most comfortable.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time today, for taking the extra time with us. I'm sure the recording of this is going to help a lot of people and inspire folks, and so I appreciate all your openness tonight. Is there anything that you wanted to shout out, to promote that's coming up that people should know about, to tune into? I know that you want people to register to vote, most definitely.
Yeah. Sign up to my newsletter at divinityroxx.com. The song "We Are" that you just heard is a finalist in a Songs for Good contest. And you can go vote for it at songsforgood.org. Please vote for the song. I made the top 10 finalists. And the contest is basically we're looking for a new song for democracy, a new anthem for democracy. And so "We Are" is one of the final songs. That would be great. Yeah, follow me on Instagram, Divi Roxx, and Twitter. I got to do that. And, stream me on Spotify. Yeah, all that good stuff.
Great. Well, yeah, wonderful. Yeah, thanks again for being a part of this event.
Yeah, I can't think of a better way to have closed out such a special weekend. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. Thank you.
Truly.
You all are beautiful.
All right. Well, with that, we'll say good night.
Good night. You guys deserve some rest. You did great work today.
Thank you.